all for the session on cloud computing. And I have great privilege in welcoming our resource person, Dr. Moshad Chowdhury, faculty in School of IT, Deakin's University, Australia. Uh, it's my great privilege to introduce our guest today. Moshe Chowdhury received his PhD from Monash University, Australia. Prior to joining Deakin's University, he was an academic staff in Gippsland School of Computing and Information Technology, Monash University, Australia. Dr. Chowdhury has more than 12 years of industry experience in Bangladesh and Australia. As an international academic research agency fellow, he has visited a number of international laboratory centers such as Baba Atomic Research Center, India, and Brookhaven National Laboratory, New York, USA, International Center for Theoretical Physics, Italy. Dr. Chowdhury's current research interests are security of Internet Things, wireless network security, health data analytics, cloud computing technology, and documentation security, etc. He has published more than 165 research papers, including a number of journal papers, conference papers, and book chapters. He has organized a number of international conferences and served as a member of technical and program committee of several international conferences since 2001. He has also acted as a reviewer of many international journal papers, including IEEE and Elsevier. He was to, he was a keynote speaker of a number of international conferences. He was invited guest speakers of many international institutes in Japan, China, India, and Nepal. He is a chartered professional engineer, Australia. It's my pleasure welcoming you, sir. We welcome you with a virtual bouquet. Hope this session will be very informative and useful for the participants. Over to you, sir.
Uh, Thank you so much. I don't know your name, who actually did the welcome address. I'd like to thank International Conclave Organizer, School of Computational Studies, Shasan Jain College for Women in Chennai. Especially, I'd like to thank Dr. S. Prasanna Ganesan for giving me opportunity to give a talk in this occasion. I feel very honored for that. This talk is actually informative. It's not like a research talk. Particularly, I targeted this talk for the student, those who are in undergraduate or maybe graduate student who want to pursue career in cloud computing technology areas. Uh, my talk, as you know, that it is a cloud computing. So before that, starting, I like to introduce myself. Already introduced me. My name is Moshe Chowdhury, and my email address moshe.chowdhury@deakin.edu. I like to request the listener, please note it down my email address. If you need any help or any want to contact me in futures, particularly your research, or if you want to study in Australia, or someone of the faculty member of this college, if they want to do PhD or any research, I'm happy to cooperate with you. I born in Bangladesh, a small district called Barisal, and I earned my undergraduate degree from Dhaka University in Dhaka, capital of Bangladesh. I earned my master's degree in US in Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And then I earned my PhD from Monash University, Melbourne. And since 1991, I've been living in Australia. I want to start my talk with the quotation from Nelson Mandela. You know, the Nelson Mandela is the one of the great leader and the father of South Africa, like Gandhi in India. He said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. We, those who are working in the educational institute and harboring the education, and we can, our next generation, if they educated more, they can change the world. Okay, here is my agenda for cloud computing, particularly understanding the cloud uh, computing. We'll see that what is cloud computing and why people are using clouds, and there is a main service, particularly public cloud services, that we're going to talk, and what is the essential characteristic of cloud, some terminology are using in cloud technology that we're going to cover, and also the deployment service model that we discuss, and why people are using, why their benefit that we discuss, and also we'll cover the risks and challenge of using cloud computing technology. And then we'll cover some of the service provider which is in India, and then we want to I like to talk about that if someone or if want to select a service provider, what are the tips of selecting that? Can you hear me? Hello? Cloud computing appears to be very difficult actually sometimes in terms of definition. But if you think about that in a simple term, you can explain that cloud computing is the delivery of computing services. Mostly you can think about the IT services, like you have a server, storage, database, networking, software, analytics, and more on the internet cloud. Some of the things you can consider that knowingly or unknowingly we are actually using the cloud technology. Say like, basic website, we have in Deakin University, most of our lectures nowadays in the COVID-19, this critical time, we doing online everything. And student get it through the cloud Deakin. And other things like, Office 365, Abdo Creative Cloud, you can consider as a, cloud. Other thing, Google's, Skype, Zoom, and others. Storage systems you can consider like Dropbox, and the computation service, the service provider giving like Amazon EC2. These are the some of the things that we are using in cloud computing. In a nutshell, we can say that I already mentioned that you are, any IT service that you deliver it through the internet, we can consider it as a cloud computing. But generally, we are delivering that, or you can get the access the internet service or the cloud service from the cloud provider. We have to pay like our utility bill, pay as you go a basis. And generally, to deliver this service, the cloud service provider had to, do this a lot of hardware and software technology using that. Uh, why people are using cloud technology? One of the thing is that file storage. Nowadays, what happened? We have a lot of data, trillion of data, and it is also a source of problem to storage that. If you storage in your own premises, there is a lot of risks and other like disaster and others. So in that case, what happened? File storage is one of the good things that you can use that from the cloud service provider, and you don't need to think about the backup. It automatically backup by service provider. Disaster recovery is another things we can use it for a cloud service through the cloud service provider, because if you have in your premises, if you have a lot of data, sensitive data like health data, financial data, and others, if this data is breaches or anything happen, then it's a big problem for that particular organization and others. So in that case, what happened is in the cloud service provider, if you use their database center and others, because their centers, data centers are not in the same location, they have a duplicate locations and others. So if there is any problem happen to any data center, in that case, it is easy to recover because they have a mirroring data center to others. So that's why people are also using the cloud computing for disaster recovery. Another thing is that big data analytics. We know that we are using lot of data nowadays for business or any organization. They're using this data analysis because in that case they can use they can do the business prediction, and they can do business better business decision. In that case, not only decision but also then they can see how the clients and others their trains, and they can satisfactory give a service to them. So that's why data analysis is very important, so that you can do in cloud computing. And as a test and development you can do using cloud computing. Another thing is like that cloud service provider, they provide like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. I like to know that can you hear me? Hello? Okay, public clouds and services. Uh, there is a lot of company nowadays provided the cloud services. One of the important is Microsoft and company and their cloud service called Azure. So there is one of the company. Another is Amazon Web Services, AWS, and also Google Cloud, Oracle, Salesforce, and IBM Cloud. Among them, mostly Microsoft, Amazon, IBM Cloud are prominent. Also Google Cloud, and people are using that. In addition of that, lot of companies, small company and other company also inactive in cloud service provider as a provider. So this company provided computation service, network service, database service, and other services. Okay, now the question is uh, the main characteristic, particularly in clouds, on-demand self-service. In on-demand self-service, uh, they can add or subtract resource when they necessary. So in that case, for example, some user, some users or customers in cloud computing, the cloud service provider, they call their customers a tenant. So we'll talk about that a little later. So in the tenant, when they needed any survey demand, maybe they need a more resources and others. In that case, uh, at any time they can get the services. Broad network access, because uh, the cloud services are provided through the internet. And one of the things is that the service provider, their resources are not in the same location. It could be different location in different position in the different countries, could be. In that case, they ensure that that a, a consumers can get access, or they can use that service through any platform like mobile, desktop, mainframe, etc. So that's the actually the is called broader network access. Resource pooling, because there is a lot of tenant, particular service provider, not likely one, like say example in say internet service provider in India and others. They don't have any, not only one customer, they have a lot of customers. In that case, they share the resource and they can redesign that, reassign that, and dynamically they can allocate it that and need when the tenants require. So resource pooling, they can do this. Rapid electricity, that is the service can quickly and automatically scale up and down to meet the customer's need. Okay, if sometimes some customers has they need a lot of extra service and others, so that it automatically can get allocated for them. Major service is like that. What the service providers customers are using their resources. In that case, something they need to monitor. Particulars they monitor the need for the billing purpose. So this is they using the measure service. It's a measure service like the utility bill. Say example, when we using the electricity, we actually paying the bill according to what we consume, or the water bill and other similar things is like that in cloud computing environment. Here is the some of the definition, or you can uh, some of the terminology we can I can say that that is the on premises. It means that it is all the resources and other, particularly in one locations, or maybe in different locations, but not the cloud base. Okay, so that is actually called the on premises. And provide cloud provider, that means the service, the IT service and other service they would are provided to the customers, and then we call the cloud provider. For example, you see that Microsoft and others. And cloud consumer, that those who are customers are actually using the cloud services from the cloud service provider. uh, then we call the cloud consumers. But cloud consumers could be an organization, mostly in organizations, and they using cloud services from the cloud service provider. Scaling, uh, as I said earlier, that the elasticity, like that. That is, the resource can be can be increased or decreased according to demand of the users. So in that case, it should be automatically scaling that. So scaling is like two things. Two scaling we considered that, particularly horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling is like that same type of resource. Say for example, it increase, or or uh, as you said, the allocate you can allocate or release the IT resources same time. Like if a if a customers are using the resources which is located in a one virtual servers, but they may not need they may need the more virtual servers for the other customers and others. In that case, what happened? The It's called you can use this horizontal scaling. Like here in this pictures, you can see that that is the horizontal scaling here. That is the virtual server. If demand increases to virtual server, and then more demand increase, more demand are, then you can increase the more server in the resource pool. In the vertical scaling, here what happened? Say some of the consumers, they need a more CPU power, or the RAM memory location. In that case, if they increase or decrease the number of CPU power, like a processor and others, then you can consider that as a vertical scaling. So it is like that. Here the picture shows that. That is, uh, for example, if you look into here, that initially may demand has a virtual machines. They have a two CPUs, but they need a more CPU power in that case. So they move to the another adding another server which has a four CPUs. Uh, Uh, we already mentioned that what is cloud. That is the main environment where the IT resources there, and which can be accessed remotely. So you can consider that cloud. And IT resource, all the resources like software resource, or you can say that virtual server, custom software. If your hardware is a physical server, network device, and none others. So in this slide, as you know, that National Institute of Standard Technology in America, they define the cloud computing. Here's the definition. I'm just reading that. That is, cloud computing is a model of enabling ubiquitous, convenient, or demand network access to shared pool of configurable computing resource. Here, resources, network, server, application, storage, and services, and that can be rapidly provisioned and released with the minimum management effort or service provider interaction. So this is the definition according to NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology. They define that. And they also said that the cloud model is composed five essential characteristics, which I showed you in the previous slide, and three service model and four deployment model. So service model and deployment model we're going to talk about. So basic service model is software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So we talk one by one about that. So infrastructure service, what is it means that cloud computing offering in which, say example, vendor provides user access to computing resource such as server, storage, and networking, and other all the actually platforms and application within the service provided infrastructure. So this is actually you can consider that particularly that's the infrastructure service because all the hardware, software, and they are actually providing that, and this is a infrastructure service I can consider because some of the organization they don't want to um, buy or any hardware equipment, even the software, so they actually uh, rely on the uh, infrastructures of the of cloud providers. So key feature is that what happened because instead of uh, purchasing hardware outright, you can use the service provider infrastructure. I mean the infrastructure service on demand, and that infrastructure is scalable and depending on processing and storage need, and it generally save a lot of money for organization instead of buying or maintaining the other hardware. So So another thing is that because of the data they're using in the cloud, so there is no single point of failure. Say like if they all are cloud, so they don't think about that if anything failure for them. Uh, in that case, infrastructure is one of the good things to do. Platform as a service, generally it allows to rent computing platform for developing, testing, and configuring software applications. Particularly, some of the organization, some of the organization, and maybe some of the people, those who want to that organization develop the applications. In that case, they can using platform as a service. Okay, now software as a service. Software as a service because what happened in that case, you don't need to buy any software yourself, because as you know that if you buy a software, you buy according to the license. How many people are doing that? In that case, you do not to buy software. All the software service can be provided by the uh, cloud service provider. The key point is that the software service vendor provide user with software application on subscription model, and also uh, in that case, user do not need to manage or install, upgrade, or any other software. So actually, the software as a service provider, they manage it, and in that case, we consider that data is secure in the cloud, and if any equipment failure and others, they don't bother for the data loss. And also, use of resource can be scaled depending on the service model. So software as example, you can consider the Jira, Dropbox, that is also, you consider a software and model. So the this slide showing the key difference between basic service model. If you look into the left side, that on premises, application data, runtime, middleware, operating system, virtualization, server, storage, networking, all these things, if it is in your own premises, not cloud based, that what happened, the owner will manage that. Okay. And infrastructure as a service, particularly in the blue color here, application, data, runtime, and middleware and operating systems will be managed by the client. And the rest of the things like virtualization, service, storage, and networking, that is managed by the service provider or the cloud service vendor. Platform as a service, also only application and data can be managed by the client, and rest of the things managed by the service provider. But in software as a service, in that case, most of the all application to the networking are generally managed and maintained by the cloud service provider. So one of the things is that the most distinct difference between here, if you consider infrastructure as a structure, as a service, PSS, and then ISS, offer administrative for more direct control over operating system. But in PS offers user greater flexibility and use of some of sorts of operation in platform and others. Now we're going to talk about the deployment model. In deployment model, here is the four model here is showing that public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. Uh, in the previous slide, we show the that is key difference between basic service model and others. One thing I like to tell you that as we show that the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, in sometimes some of the people nowadays they consider that is database as a service, security as a service, but that are the secondary actually. But the main services that we discussed in the previous slide are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Okay, let's concentrate on the deployment models: public cloud, private cloud, and the hybrid and common cloud. Uh, in the public cloud, generally what happened, access open to everybody, like the like a public service, and but they subject to subscription. If somebody subscribe, that they can get the access, and they can share the resource, and it is the model is multi-tenant design. and delivery selects set of standardized business process, application, infrastructure service, and the price will be flexible according to the agreement, that be service level agreement with the uh, tenant, I mean the customers. And always, what's called that, things are managed and hosted by third party. The common providers, Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, and Google Platform, and IBM, you can consider. Private cloud generally is completely what called access is limited to enterprise, particularly who actually subscribe that, and its partner network generally, and particularly here dedicated resource, and the tenant is a single tenant, not the other, because it's a private cloud, and the tenant is single. And what happened? Uh, Sometimes it could be managed by the third party, but generally, the responsibility of the tenant who actually designed that. Common vendor you can consider, have VMware, IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft, etc. They are the main actually common provider for that. Hybrid cloud, actually, this is the combination of both, like public cloud and the private cloud. What happened? Some of the organization, they try to store very sensitive data on a private cloud. In that case, we can say that the local data center, simultaneously leverage the robust computational resource and manage public cloud. They're using that. But for the rest of the organizations, others, they can use the public cloud. Sorry, the public cloud. So private cloud and public cloud, the combination, then you can consider that is as a hybrid cloud. Most often, hybrid cloud generally used by finance, healthcare systems, and other, because they are using most sensitive data, and that data can be stored in a private cloud data center database. So this is one of the good things, the hybrid cloud, because if someone using all public cloud, all their resource, even they store the sensitive data, there is a lot of risks on that. Okay, another thing is the community cloud. It is because the community cloud, what happened is shared different organization with a common goal. Particularly, for example, a, a organization are doing a joint project. For example, with some other organization, and they are not in the same country, could be different country, like England or US. In that case, they can use the same, community clouds as a to perform their what's called computation facilities and others. So that's why, generally it may, call that community cloud. And community cloud could be hybrid form or private cloud, and they built operated specifically for a target group. So as they said that the target group is like an organization who has doing some projects with some other organization, and so and specifically they can use the community cloud. Okay, here there is a analysis deployment models. If you look into the left side, in the left side of the this table, you can see that is setup and uses data security, privacy, data control, reliability, scalability and flexibility, cost effectiveness, demand for in-house hardware. And here we putting that, public, private, hybrid, and community cloud. And you can see that in public cloud, if you look into that, that is setup is very easy because most of the things done by the providers. But in private, you need, because you are using some of the uh, hardware systems, or maybe software system, private cloud. In that case, you need a IT proficiency for that, because you are managing this. And in case of community cloud, also you need some sorts of IT people who can look after that. Hybrid also you need that, because hybrid is the part of the cloud, private, and the public cloud. And data security and public cloud is very very low, though some of the cloud service provider, they say that our data is very very secure and other things. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides later on. But generally it's not, it's low, but because of the private, you are maintaining that, then what happens is security is very high. Depends on that how we maintain the security, but generally you can assume that in private cloud, data security and privacy is high. And community comparatively high, though it is actually using different organization in different locations. So in that case, comparatively high. And hybrid also we consider high, because hybrid is mostly private and the public, but sensitive data and others people are using in the for storage purpose in a private cloud. Data control, uh, little or may none, but the in private cloud is very high. You can control your own data and others, and you can manipulate that, configure that. But community is also comparatively high, and also hybrid is comparatively high, because you may store some of the data which is not sensitive using the public clouds data centers storage system. Reliability, public cloud reliability in comparison of the private cloud is little bit vulnerable, because though the service provider assured you that they're done vulnerable, but generally in comparison to the private cloud, the reliability private cloud is high, community cloud is comfortably high, but hybrid also high. Flexibility or the scalability in public cloud is very high, private also high, but in community is like a fixed capacity, that this amount of things you can do that. So that is fixed capacity. And the hybrid also scalability is also high. In terms of money and cost, the public cloud is comparatively cheap than private, because it is very cost sensitive, because you are using private cloud, and nobody sharing your resources. Maybe in the hardware and others is only one single tenant, so it is very expensive. And other things like the community also, the cost is not in terms of too much, because in the community cloud, the cost actually maintained by the shared by different community members. But in the hybrid, it's cheaper than private model, but more costly than public model. Definitely, because hybrid is consists of both private and the public. Uh, there is no need to in-house hardware in the public, but private it depends. Also, community it depends, and the hybrid it depends, because how in private, what type of hardware and others you want to use that. So you have to pay accordingly for that, or cost on that. Okay, if we summarize this deployment model here, this the slide showing that private, hybrid, and public, and in that case, I'm not reading all of them. We already discussed hybrid and public, and the generally in private, the vendors are like, as I mentioned, that VMware, Red Hat, Microsoft, OpenStack, IBM, and hybrid, vendors, combination of both public, private cloud providers and others. And the public, it generally we know that the renowned one is IBM, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Okay, now one of the things is that uh, what's the goal and the benefit we are thinking about that in 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 the cloud environment. Benefits. So benefits actually, uh, enormous benefit actually, in using cloud technology, because what happened if you think about that, you have a if you want to set up a computing systems in your premises, using a lot of hardware, server and others, database server, normal servers, operating system, and other lot of things you are using that, and it's a huge cost, and cost, and in that case, what happened? You have to upfront investment, okay, and it reduces the cost, because what happened, as you know that the IT technology is changing, rapidly. For example, what you have in your desk, a laptop, maybe next year or year after, you can get a better one and better processing power and better than that. Or maybe you using the server and others, and then what happened? Every 2 or 3 years, we changing the hardware, like hardware, softwares, and others. So it's a big cost. So reduction is a very very things that investment cost is reduced, because in organization, business people, they always looking for cost cutting and others. So this is one of the good things, that is the more benefit it comes for the if you reduce the investment. One of the example, if you, I can say you that one of the things for analogy purpose, you can consider that in particular in Deakin University, in my university, we don't actually. 5 years ago, we buy the computers and others for the lab. And what happened? Every 1 or 2 years, 3 years, we see that new systems is coming. So we have to, install the new systems, new, better computer. But the thing is that it's cost a lot of money. So in that case, uh, what happened? Our university decided, or our school and other decided, no, we will not buy the computers and others. We buy, we will rent it. So in that case, what happened? If you rent every 3 years, 2 years, you can change that, and you can put a new or latest, the uh, high power processing power and other computers. So this is the in that way you can reduce the investment or the cost. So similar things like in cloud environment, if you don't buy all the hardwares and upfronts and other, you can reduce the cost by using the cloud service providers equipments and other. Other thing like that proportionally cost, because So generally what happen, and major operational expenditure, that is replace capital expenditure, because in capital expenditure you're putting a lot of money to do that. But in if you doing the the cloud providers equipments and other, in that case you just only paying the operational cost, that how long and how many times you're using for that. So you pay for the resource you use, not like you buying the whole bulk of things and others. So this is the one another way you can save money, and so that's why people are using the cloud service. Other common benefit, measurable benefits, we already talked, highlighted in previous slide, that you can access it anytime, short time or long time, according to your use, according to your demands. And what happened, and if your demand is unlimited IT resource, that could be you can add, remove IT resources, and then you can add new resources through the providers. So this is the common, measurable benefits. For example, here, if you have if you consider the elasticity example, if you have an example user use one server 100 hours, or you can use 100 server 1 hour. So this is the one of the elasticity benefit, and others people are using cloud computing. And it is increased the scalability because the resources are allocated dynamically, not like sequentially. So on demand basis, they you can they increase the scalability, use that, and via some of the configuration you can using through that. Okay, that is the main thing, is that scalability is very very increased if you're using cloud benefit, cloud technology. And also another thing that you can, in cloud environment, the tenant can scale down resource automatically, or if you want, on the manually you can do accommodate fluctuation in demand. It depends on what sorts of platform you're using. And availability and reliability also increase, because what happened, one of the things is that if you um, in cloud environment, if your organization want to increase the some resource, and any instant and other, and more and more, and if it is reliability, then you can do that. But the problem is that, not problem, in that case what happened, it's not maybe applicable to every customer organization. It depends on the service level agreement, that what agreement you are using with the cloud uh, service provider. It's like a simple example, analogy you can consider, that if you have a smartphone or mobile phone, and how many gigabyte are using, you want to use. In that case, what happened? The this provider, is internet service provider of your mobile phone, they allocated the price according to the that demand. So similar things in cloud environment also like that. So in that case, service level agreement is very important. Uh, you can plan in a business organizations, in a business environment, what called the capacity planning. They can balance the peak time using, without necessary or over expenditure on the infrastructure and others. Something, you can plan the capacity of another, that is sometimes using peak use or off peak type use. So this is also one of the important things. I'm giving one analogy in what called, I don't know about India about that. That is, in Melbourne, in Australia, when using electricity, there is a time off peak time, and the peak time. And if you use peak time, there are a lot of charge, and there is a charge also more. That is, there is a slab, like say example in peak time. If you're using 300 kilowatt powers more than some that, then they have to charge more and more. Similar things, what happened in water supplies in Sydney, that if the water mainly comes from the dam, and if the dam in the summertime is the uh, water level comes down, then in that case, because they charge more for the delivery of water use, because the that is the peak time, and the more people are using the water during the summer, so they charge accordingly like that. But in winter, when the lot of rains and others, and then the lake is filled of the what called water, then they charge it according to the filling of the dam. So similar thing in a capacity planning like that in cloud. That is, um, when you need a peak uses, what how much they're going to charge. It depends on the service level agreement. Cost reduction, as I said, to the business drive, particularly in Deccan universities and the example. So is like in Deccan, we cost acquire new infrastructure and ongoing ownership, including personal upgrade, or maybe past testing, development of software, utility, and other things. That's the one of the things where the we reduce the cost in cloud. Another thing is that uh, uh, the organization agility is one of the very important mm, uh, mm, important things. That is, if they change any demand, IT unexpected demand. In that case, whether business can ready to to resource can be ready for that. For example, if you look into that, those who are doing online shopping, the online seller, particularly weekend, there the server has a lot of become very busy at that time, and a lot of people try to buy online, particularly the weekend time, and or any festival is coming, like in India, Deepavali, but in Australia, like Christmas time, online shopping going up. And also what happened during the COVID-19, now online shopping going very up. So in that case, business model they want to change, and particular time what the main things they need to do that. So this is also part of the agility, that the business is change, they have to change accordingly. uh, Now we're going to talk about the risks and what call the risks. We talk about now the risks and challenge, um, because one of the challenges in security and vulnerability, because uh, the movement of the business data from from one's uh, premises to the other cloud services and others, is that the responsibility of data security is shared by what called the cloud provider, and also sometimes the consumers, I mean the tenant. So it is sometimes very difficult, particularly security architecture. If you spend the trust boundary, there is a trust boundary there, and in that case, there is a chance of the introducing the vulnerabilities and others. And to some extent, and in a public cloud and others, the data security is very limited, and particularly depends the control and policy. In that case, it also applied in responsibility applied for both cloud and consumers. So nowadays, a lot of research going on the in cloud security and others data security environments. Another thing is that reduce operational governance control, because how the it is the if you have a IT infrastructure in your premises, that is you control that. In that case, what happened? You know that it is your under your control and others. But in the in cloud systems, in the cloud provider, because most of the things is controlled by them, and we'll show you that in the slide that how what the risks are. In that case, the in that environment easily lower. For example, here we said in this slide we say that in cloud provider may not maintain SLA agreement, service level agreement. It may happen like that, and there is the incident. Some happen. If you look into the some research, you can find that a lot of cloud computing provider, they may not, you know, 100% fulfill the service level agreement. So in that case, what happens sometimes is offset the quality and cloud consumer solutions. And another thing is that because the resource actually located in different locations geographically, big large distance. In that case, there is a problem sometimes in the internet bandwidth problem, latency, and other problems. So this is also a concern about that. And one of the other things that portability cloud providers is very limited. Suppose one of you in your organization you're working sorry in your organization, some of the cloud providers provide the services to you, and you found that okay, this service is not good and not portable, that you want to do move to the other environments. In that case, it's very difficult to move another cloud provider unless you finish your agreement, service agreement. Say maybe you contract 2 years that you want to do. In that case, what happened? You cannot move to the other service provider. If you look the analogy here, say example, I don't know about India, but here in Australia, if you have an internet provider and there is a lot of flexible offer that anytime you can move to any other organizations. Not only internet provider, in the other utility provider, electricity, gas, and others. If you are not happy with one providers, gas or electricity, and if you want to move to others, you can go easily. There is no obligation, and it is regulated by Melbourne government. I mean, in Victoria government. So in cloud environment, that sorts of free environment not still available, because people, not all people are migrating to the cloud environment. So in that case, what happened if an organization want to change to one uh, provider to other, it's a big challenge. Excuse me. Regional compliance and another thing is a legal issue, because if your database center or the data centers are different place and different location, maybe in different country, In that case, any data, breaches or privacy breaches happen, and in that case, maybe that country has a different laws. You cannot sue them, sometimes according to law and local law. In that case, what happened? The service providers say, "Look, we are doing that, but anyway, that country has a different law. They cannot get, catch them and others." So this is a another, challenge, like storage personal data, excessive disclosure of data. This is also very very important. So in that case, mostly, the regulatory frameworks, they said that it is the responsibility, particularly in the cloud consumers, particularly responsibility is the consumers. Here, this slide is similar, like 24 slide I showed previously. That is the share responsibility model for security in the cloud. Here, all the on-premises, like customer responsibility. That is, any security breach happen here, it is the responsibility of the person, customer, those who are doing their own premises. Of course, that. But if the if the infrastructure as a service, in that case, security responsibility, particularly here, user access, data, application, operating system, network traffic. This is the responsibility of the consumer. I mean, the customer, the tenant. And if their, infrastructure, physical or hyper-V, there is any failure happen or any security breach happen here, that the, service provider will look after that. You can catch them. In a similar way, like platform as a service, in the user access data application, this three rate, that is the responsibility of the customers. And the other thing, all are responsible for any operating system failure or any network or any attack happen on that. In terms of security, they are responsible. Similar in software service, user access and data, this is the responsibility for the mm, consumer. But application operating system, these all are responsible for the cloud provider. So in that case, what we see here, that is the in terms of um, security in the cloud environment, the software as a service is little bit far better, the in consumer side compared to what called the uh, infrastructure service. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the some of the terms you might encountered in the cloud computing, like vCenter. vCenter actually manage a data center. We virtual center server. You can consider that. They are like cluster, host or virtual machine, and they automatically deliver virtual infrastructure. And here is showing like that. The picture will be. And data center, it resides all the IT resources, particularly data. And as a cluster host, a VM and folders can be doing like that. Data centers here, because here vCenter, this is the data center here. And cluster, here you can consider the cluster. That is host resource, including the cluster resources here. A group of hosts you can consider in that. And host hypervisor, if you consider this data host, so this is all are the running virtual softwares, like hypervisor, ESXi, and manage multiple virtual machines. And here, this is the virtual machine in the host and other. You can find out that because I mean, the virtual machine is software computer and generally runs an operating system and process. Excuse me. Templates and data stores generally you can consider is a template in image of a virtual machine, and that can create another other virtual machines. And the data store is a logical container you can consider, and where the virtual machine files and other files and operating systems of virtual machines reside. Okay, give me 1 minute. I'll grab a one glass of water, please. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just. Are you hearing me? Everything is going on. Okay, okay, thank. Uh, so now, so 11:50 means 4:50. Okay, now we're going to talk about the cloud in the industry. So here is the top, cloud service vendors that we several, in our previous slide we already mentioned that. That is the Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Service, IBM Cloud Service, Salesforce Cloud, and SAP Cloud Services. Uh, uh, in this slide, we added some more services. Particularly, you can find them in India. uh, in the previous slide that the five in previous slide that I show you, that is also in these five top cloud service provider also available in India as well. But the following are the cloud service provider also, small provider also available in India. But one of the things like here, Prakash Software Solutions, you can find lot of software or the cloud service provider company there, but actually that company those company are not doing 100% cloud service. They provide cloud service, particularly in say like example in Prakash Software Solution. They have 80% cloud service provided. uh, Elbex, Ibex Labs, Ibex Lab, they provide also 60% cloud services, particularly, cloud architectures and others. So there are a lot of things here, like Tata Consulting Service also doing a lot of business on that. Zenith and Cars Data Centers Limited, Wipro Technology, Spray Technology, and other cloud services. But the in previous slide that I showed you, that the other main company, they have the full type of solutions and others. Okay, and now here we're showing about the what's called Microsoft Azure. One of the things that Microsoft has, Azure has they actually using one of the top service provider, cloud service provider people considers, and they give a service in all level, like infrastructure service, platform as a service, software as a service. And they are actually one of the good things that they actually committed and helping to develop the customers, particularly artificial intelligence, machine learning, even the blockchain in innovation production environment. They support that. And nowadays this Microsoft is one of the market leading cloud their revenue comes market level. Other things, Microsoft service, they also create for the testing and also deploy other application service, in globally. And also this Microsoft manage a lot of cloud data centers. They have actually their deployment model they called like classic deployment model. They and the Azure Resource Manager model. They know the Azure Resource Manager, and in Azure Resource where there you can have the all the VM machines, SQL, and also database service. They're doing that, and it's managed can done by individually. And this is the the Azure Resource Manager actually is not new. It is almost 6 years old. They introduced 2014, and they have created a lot of groups and other services. And still they are deploying a lot of good management and monitor that cloud services constantly. And one of the good things that people also using Microsoft. One of the there is a couple of advantages in Microsoft Azure. Uh, they actually they provide all type of business, and they are the they are the key market, and they are the one of the providers, most provider. And the other benefit, actually, positive things in Azure is that it speed actually in three key areas here we written that speed, deployment, operation, scalability speed is very fast. And other thing that it is also doing on-premises solution, even the almost what called the their service is almost very uh, different, very difficult to match the Microsoft Azure's services. And it has a wide range of the business agility, particularly that to adapt quickly and market change, and internally and externally, and they can respond rapidly and flexibly to customer demands, and they can add lead change in productive and cost effective way without compromising the quality, and continuously be competitive and advantage. So that's the actually business agility that Azure offer. And it can be globally reach, because any where any place the customers reside, their resource can be accessible if someone subscribe that from any corner of the world. Subject to depends on that country's how internet and how fast the internet. For example, here some of the developing country like Japan's and other, the internet is so fast and others compared to Australia. Okay, so it's also depend on the internet and others to match the global reach, and it has a development environment is very integrated and very user friendly to use that. And it is the integrated delivery pipeline, particularly architectural perspective. Generally, customers required, unified delivery. So Azure has that. There is a source controls. They can testing the unit, integrated testing can be done, and also delivery, and it can go live tools as well. Okay, it's disaster recovery also in a very good, particularly even it has a its data center is different location, and if it is fail one of the data centers, in that case failure option is very quick, and they have that facilities, and their models are very good and cool, and they can what call the reboot capacity is very nice and very capable, particularly in disaster recovery. Eventually, it has some sorts of what called the disadvantage, particularly hyper V snapshot is a lack of that, and yeah, you cannot upload that custom image there, and they have a takes longer provision for longer task, or if someone virtual machines in on the premises, and backup also, integrated backup also not good, and their GUI and other tools management not up to the professional standard. And one of the thing is that window client image not accessible for the Microsoft Azure. But I don't know at this stage that maybe Microsoft actually overcome that things, because they are developing their service or improving their service every year. Okay, here map showing the different locations where the Microsoft Azure presence. And if you look into here, the India, they have a South India, maybe Chennai. I'm not sure about that, whether the Chennai has a Microsoft Azure office. Maybe uh, South India here deporting, but maybe I'm not sure about that, whether it is in Chennai or not. Central India they have, Western India they have, and other countries they have. Australia Azure has a four locations and other. Another thing is that, for example, some of the uh, student undergraduate, when they're going to graduate that, or maybe those who are in already graduated and working in a company, software company and others, and if they are in a cloud company, if they want to go for Microsoft Azure certification. So in that case, what happened? This is the certification path um, in uh, uh, in Microsoft Azure certification. Because what happened nowadays in the job market, particularly if someone wants to work in a cloud technology area and and working in the service provider, they also ask to have what called the uh, certification. So here is the new role-based Microsoft Azure certification path. Uh, there are a lot of A's and 90. There are a lot of things here. I'm not explaining all everything. So here is the slide that the if someone wants to do the Microsoft Azure certification, they can follow that. Okay, Amazon also leading one of the leading cloud service provider, and generally short term they call AWS, Amazon Web Service. Actually, Amazon doing a lot of business from online shopping to others. So it is also one of the subsidy of the Amazon original company, and also it has a cloud computing platform, particularly individual or any organization or any enterprise on the basis of the subscription basis. And it has a one computational service which is called EC2, electricity cloud computing cloud, generally known as EC2. And they have that include all the Unix systems like Linux, Windows, or virtual machine, and support and other doc container, and all the automatic scaling computation facilities and other they can do it. Other things, Amazon provides services like storage services, which is called S3. It can be store object based or block based service they can provide, and they have a redundant data storage that's also there. And in that case, if someone organization want to store the data for a long term basis, that is also available. And also it can be they have a facilities to data transfer from from their physical to others data storage. And also they have a content delivery network services as well. And in addition of that, they have a database service, and that could be database rational or key value data model also they support. They also support data warehouse, and also caching service they also provide. And they have a also network service, and it could include the whether virtual network between virtual machines to and from the premises of the data center, DNS services. And as you know that one of the important point is load balancing. They also in distributed in computing, and also load balancing is one of the problem they faces. And it also do this from different workload and from different instance, and also from different global locations. Other services, Amazon doing that, like particularly one of the things is that identity access management. They provide that API also. They provide for logging. They also doing the any management and confirmation hardware security. They doing tell that, and also key management, and also what called the data analytics. They also provide that. And nowadays, people one of the thing data streamings and also doing that. In data streaming, sometimes in cloud environment, a lot of research that they're using SDN service, uh, software defined networks. They're using that nowadays and things, but I'm not sure. Probably they have that service in Amazon. Okay, and in addition that other thing like they have payment gateway and other application development also they provide the Amazon services. The main disadvantage what reviewer noticed that is the software defined data center is is little bit steep for particularly learning curve and others. And also what happened, a lot of report we see that is the sometimes the bill they're coming which is not appropriate things. People are confusing about that. So therefore this is one of the drawbacks for the Amazon services. Generally, what happen, sometimes NPI, they recommend monthly details bills about that. Another thing is that it doesn't have the enterprise grade support. By default, it doesn't have. Generally, other, Microsoft Azure, they have. Uh, so if customers want to buy that business star support for that, then they have to give 10% more premium overall, for the customers AWS spending that. So in that case, all the enterprise, particularly big organization, other, they have to one customer agreement. They have to do that and they have a lot of significant terms and condition. And in that case, what happened? That condition can be negotiable with the Amazon. And other things, people noticed that it has a outrage in, high profile of recent history. Okay, and other thing is like if some trainer or some IT graduates want to pursue the Amazon Web Service certificate, if they want to pursue their career in a cloud technology. So they have this is a certificate path, professional certificate, and that is 2 year comprehensive experience design and operating, troubleshooting solution and the cloud. That is professional. They have also associate, and that is for 1 year, and foundational also 6 months. Okay, but I don't know actually how much they're going to charge for that to gather the knowledge and the training. So this is also one of the very important aspect for the AWS certificate. So I always suggest that the person who want to pursue certificate, they have to spend some times to explore that how much they're going to charge. So generally in certificate here is showing that that is a three parts, 4 parts actually here in the middle. If you look into the architect, operational and developer, cloud practitioner, so that certificate is divided of that allow, like solution architecture professional and the solution architecture for the associate if someone doing especially for architect. And also what happened in operation, they have only actually for system operator administrator, that is associate certificate. And for the developer also associate certificate, but develop operating system engineering, they have a professional certificate. And the cloud practitioner also they have a certificate. And one of the specialty of cloud in the guide here, that is certificate guide, that is advanced networking. They have a big data as, and certificate for security, machine learnings and other. But this is especially particularly if someone wants to go for the um, cloud security, then we can do that. But in overall, in security area, particularly computer and others, they have a different professional certificates also available, and most of the people are actually going, particularly those who are interested to pursue career in cybersecurity. They actually going for that path. Okay, now here is a global presence, particularly region-wise. I've seen that one in India. Probably, I'm not sure more than they have, but now this slide is just 1 year old, and maybe they have a more office Amazons in India. I'm not sure about that, but here shows that one is in India there. Maybe they have some brands or maybe they have some agent they're doing that. Okay, another service provider is IBM Cloud. IBM Cloud Service Provider. One of the good things with IBM Cloud Service that, particularly in academics environment, if some academics want to use the IBM Cloud, there is a provision of free 1 year access for their IBM Cloud, but the academics must be ensured that that they want to do cloud technology for some particular project, and they're easy to help them to the for the academic environment to prompt their facilities. Uh, they have also their brand like cover all of the deployment like infrastructure service model, infrastructure software platform service also they offer through public, also private and hybrid cloud model. Generally, they offer three actually model under the name like Smart Cloud Foundation Service and Solution. Generally, Smart Foundation it's like similar like infrastructure service type. All the hardware management and all the security they claim the security, and also they using that private and private cloud. They using these things, and actually what call the they have a in the fundamental cloud foundation. They have a platform as a service, and uh, the infrastructure service has a backup service also that in smart cloud services as well. Also they have a what call for the client, they're sometimes they're not necessarily or to be a smart cloud platform, because some of the features in the smart cloud platform they have, and they also call a software name Tivoli management, and also the IBM system director visualization, and then can be done with this service and practice for the IBM cloud. Here is showing that IBM public hybrid models, platform service, cloud provision, monitor, scheduling, cloud management, virtualization, and others. So this is a strategy, security, and design. They're doing this for the IBM cloud services. And advantage, one of the couple of advantage IBM cloud service has that it has a smart cloud orchestra, is called the script packages, and that is actually good for the development test, so that the tenant or the user, they can create their software and they can deploy it. Even they can configure the package, and then they can share that across the other business, and their that sharing method is centralized, and also they can eliminate the platforms which done in previously, and with duplication, and they can reduce some sorts of various team form of various team creating solution and machine mechanism. They can share that in the script package. They have a virtual system pattern, because in that VCM they can enable the share configuration, create, and can be simply they can single virtual machine, or maybe complex and ETS solution, they can produce several products. Another thing is that like self-service portal, which is SQ that they can incorporate, particularly business process management. And one of the things is that this portal users do not have need to or any time to understand, because sometimes this portal is complex, so complex of this script package, they don't need to understand that. It easily can do the through virtual system pattern and virtual images. They have also clone environment, and that can be deployed the clone to the other existing virtual machines, and and that can be replicated and enable them to run parallel test case of different various data, and they can compare that and validate the results. Other things like virtual machine administration decrease because of the dynamic nature of the SKU based. That environment, they have a less, care about the security and other requirements. So that VM virtual machine can live on a short duration. Okay, it has some disadvantage. Some products often people call buggy, not is painful, and sometimes it's very hard to expand it. Uh, and any newer products will become very hard to introduce. And generally, no free to use for learners. Learners as a no free and everything because of the what called you have to subscribe and other that. Okay, pathway to become an architect, particularly in IBM Cloud computing specialist. It is a sort of certification pathway, and they have a what's called cloud computing foundations, or maybe someone wants to do the application developer specialist. Particularly if someone wants to do hands-on experience like IBM Bluemix academic certificate, that is the cloud application developer, special Bluemix construction, they can say that. And if another pathway is like cloud system administrator, and like IBM software academic certificate cloud, particularly cloud computing certificate software concentration. Here is putting like that. That is cloud computing foundation, cloud application developer, cloud system administrator, and then if you can do the cross skill like systems, mobile security, and other, whatever you do, then that is the computer skill. Individually, you can do all of these things for the cloud computing environment certificate and others. But one of the thing is that if someone is getting job directly to the IBM cloud, IBM, and working in a cloud service provider section, in that case, sometimes they actually allow you to, according to your nature of job, they allow you to do the certificate course of IBM Cloud Certificate Administration Developer, Cloud Systems, and others. Okay, IBM Clouds globally presents different countries in the world, and what happened in Australia? We have a one actually. New Zealand so far controlled by the head from the Australian office in IBM, and in India they have here from the entities global presence. Okay, and in IBM in Bangalore they have office. IBM Indian presence. In addition, other like Salesforce cloud services. Salesforce also doing that cloud services, and then they called actually customer relation management CRM, and they and their service actually consists of different category like commerce cloud, sales cloud, service cloud, data cloud, and marketing cloud, community cloud, analytic cloud, and application IoT and others. For over 100,000 customers. IoT, Internet of Things, has become very now very emerging topics. And now a lot of people are working on IoT on clouds and others. I have a personally couple of paper on IoT. If you go to the DBLP, you can find there. If you type my name, and you can say that. India also the presents the Salesforce like Bangalore, Gurujan, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. Another is self cloud service also available. They also provide the service. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to talk to you about that particularly if some organization want to select cloud service. In that case, what happened? Lot of things need to be considered to select any service because a lot of company around in our doorstep. So to select this cloud service provider is like a daunting task. But there is some tips we can I can show you here. Maybe it may be interested to you or not. Okay, one of the thing is that nowadays most of the organization have a feeling they now transition from on-premises service to the cloud services, and in that case, it is very difficult to find a genuine service provider. One of the main important things that the how to assess and how reliable and how capable the company is. It is one of the good question for that. So in that case, the following we've listed that need to be considered. Financial background and position, because financial background of the particular company is very, very important. If you go for a big company, Amazon, IBM, and the Microsoft Azure and SAPs and other, this big company, there will not a very problem that because they are the multinational company and reliable company. But for a little things like if you see some of the company, small company around your state or your city, in that case you have to look into that particular company because a lot of company doing multiple things, but they may not have the capability or capacity or giving service 100% on cloud. So that is one of the consideration. If you choose a small company, sometimes small company is not bad, but you have to look into their financial background and position. Uh, Other thing like governance, planning, and risk management, how their risk management is that is very important. Uh, and in that case, you have to look into that company's proper organization structure and what's their policy about the any risks happen or any data breach happen and anything what their policy and other things. In that case, you have to evaluate their in that case you have to evaluate their service providers and the vendors. Sometimes people go to the vendor, and then what happened? They actually uh, not giving the true picture of the particular organization or service provider. Another question is trust, because what happened? How you trust the company? How if anything happen, and if you do a service level agreement, and in that agreement you give you subscribe the lot of services, but in the true time they are not delivered. So this is also very important. You have to look into that, and also look into that company that um, uh, how how experienced that company in cloud environment. Particularly small company, you have to look into that. Big company, you already know that they have a doing this. In that case, you have to consider the trust, and also you have to consider their knowledge regarding technical knowledge and how business knowledge, because it is very important for you when you migrated to the cloud environment. And also the compliance, yeah, important that how often they actually do the audit and compliance, that whether because sometimes some of the companies they're doing through the some of the maintenance, even the service provider with the third party. So third party audit is sometimes very important. Other thing like the it is very important like the service level agreement, because um, service level agreement is very important because what they promise basic level of service that you are comfortable with. So that is one of the things. And also you can consider that how their performance, in that case you can look into their performance report, annual report and others for that particular company. Other things you consider that whether that particular company has a sufficient control of their resource, whether they regularly monitor the resource, and how they configure the management configuration things. So that is very important because monitor service provide to customers, and any change if their system happen, how they're doing that, how they're monitoring that. And another is that billing and accounting. As you know that what called uh, Amazon has sometimes people has a problem that they have a billing is very confusing. So when they bill you that how often using their service, they like how many times using the CPU for how many hours, how many memory and using, but you haven't using that. So whether they have billing accordingly your users or not. So that is very important issue for the billing account when you select any company, and you can find out that whether the company has any problem or any dispute with other company, and that might help you to find out the company's billing system. And other thing is that like when the deployment done that any service and other management whether and how often they upgraded the software and others is very important, because softwares are changing, they using new softwares and others, how often they upgrade their systems and other, that is very important. Other thing that whether they have provided any standard API, and how data transfer the organization can easily build a connection and in the cloud. So a standard interface is also very important. And other thing is like event management, particularly the provider should have some formal system, so that they can might integrate the or monitor the management systems, or any change management. They should have their documentation properly, logging and other testing, accepting any changes and others. That is also important. Another thing that and the hybrid capability, because whether hybrid cloud they have initially done, or they should make sure that support the other model as well, advantage and other things, and in later times. So that is also very important to look into that. And security practice is very important. Though public cloud system security, sometimes people not very much. If you have a sensitive data, financial institute or maybe health data, in that case, people using private cloud, so that it can be your own your own control. So, and but if you are using public and the hybrid, in that case, security infrastructure is very important, and their policy also look into that, because if the data breaches or any privacy breaches, anything happen, what's the their policy is that, what's the compensation, how they replace that. This is also important. Other thing that identity management is also the security practice. That is if change in application service or maybe hardware components, uh, should authorize person or other group, they are doing that, and the role basis or not. authentication required anyone change the application of data and others. So this is very, very important for security practice to identify um, any potential any service provider. Data backup retention also important. How quickly the backup can happen, and how quickly they preserve this data and others, and how secure is that. That you have to look into that. Physical security also very important, particularly though though you are not looking into that, because if you are public cloud service provider, public cloud service provider, and if you look into the infrastructure as a service or platform, how platforms they are doing that, and how physical security on that particular any incident happens or not, and if it happen, how they doing the business continuity and all that. And that is very important. Any disaster recovery, how they doing the business continuity. But the business continuity cannot be, stopped. It should be continued that. So that's also look into that. Okay, so this is the actually talk in for my here, and I all cover all these list on that things. Before going to do that, I want to show you some computing humor for cloud computing. Look into that, and other. This is another humor, and this is another slide for computing humor, computing humor. This is another one. Okay, at the end, I want to mention one of the things that Amazon Jeff Bosses put a quotation, that is, we do not generate your own electricity. Definitely, we don't generate our own electricity. Why generate your own computing? So that's why they suggest they do the cloud computing. Okay, any question? Any questions?
Sir, no, sir.
Okay,
Hello, sir,
then
you can
stop.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
sir. Okay, sir.
So
We did not find any questions in the chat window.
yeah,
I'll
no,
proceed.
if any, I don't because if I want, no, I don't see that. Then what happened? I have to stop the sharing.
Yeah, yes, sir. That is over. We will mail you if we have any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. If you send me a one letter that you invited me, then I
Yes,
can
sir,
keep
we will.
that as a record. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for listening. That and what I want to mention here, one thing that if your institute, anybody want to do some research with us, then we are happy to. I'm happy to help them. Or anybody wants to do PhD in Australia, those who haven't done that yet, that's welcome. Also, if anybody in your institute want to what call if external need external supervisor, I can do that. Okay, then. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, then.
A very good afternoon to all. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. I, on behalf of Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women, extend a hearty gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Moshad Chowdhury, Academic Faculty, Center for Cybersecurity Research and Innovation, School of Information Technology, Deccan University, Australia, for graciously accepting our invitation and for sharing his expertise on cloud computing technology. Sir, the way you explained the topic was very exemplary. I would like to pledge my respectful thanks to our management for being instrumental to all of us. My sincere thanks to our respected principal, Dr. S. Padmavati, for her guidance and encouragement. My honest gratefulness to Computer Society of India. I must express my deep sense of gratitude to our staff members and the technical staffs who were supporting us to conduct this event. Last but not the least, my sincere appreciations to all the participants for patience listening. Thank you once again. Dear participants, meet you all on the next session on 22nd June by 10 a.m. Link for the feedback will be given on the second day of the program. You can leave the platform. Thank you.